Hello, hello, and good morning to everyone on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I appreciate you joining us today here while we hang out with Mr. Alex DePazzo from DePazzo Insurance down in Miami. Alex, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. I've been an independent agent for almost 30 years now, 29 years in 2 days, to be exact. I've ran an agency with my father that whole time, I've loved the journey that this has taken me and my life on, as a natural introvert, I've had to find new and exciting ways to capture attention in a world where attention really equates to revenue. I've been super blessed to know folks like the Roloffs, and a lot of other folks who've helped me along my journey. I'm just a business owner trying to make it in a very digital world.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so we'll dive into what those digital things are that you're doing. But for quick background, this is our IGNiTE Spark series, which is our live stream that we're doing with our different speakers who will be at our IGNiTE Digital Leadership Summit, which is coming up very quickly. It's in 2 weeks to the day, actually. So in 2 weeks, Alex will be leaving warm Miami and flying to, I don't know, maybe warm Wisconsin.
We actually had a whole conversation with that while having coffee this morning, right? Like, when I get there, will I think it's warm? It's
hard to say. I mean, I will say, like, you go back 2 weeks ago in Wisconsin and it was 95 degrees and muggy, right? So like you might be familiar with that temperature.
Yes. Yeah, we have it every day. In fact, we have it today.
Yeah. Whereas like you look at hopefully in early September, it'll be like 77 degrees and partly cloudy and like perfect just hanging outside and enjoying the fall weather. So that's the goal, at least. My favorite time of year is September in Wisconsin. So that was part of
since you guys are putting on IGNiTE there, I'm assuming you've consulted the weather gods. You have folks doing special rain dances or something of the other to make sure everything is.
It's an indoor event, so hopefully we'll be able to avoid that too a little bit. So what part of the series, we're just bringing on speakers, and Alex is going to be joining us for our panel session in the afternoon at IGNiTE, talking about how he uses social media to grow his small business. And I've known Alex now for 3 years, I think, going almost 3 years now.
I stopped counting.
Exactly. He is a great example. I'm going to talk, Alex, you are a great example of what it means to create educational content and use that as a way to build trust with your audience, expand your audience, and then ultimately grow your business with it. Maybe to kind of kick things off, obviously you are an insurance broker, and I think, and you might even say that yourself, but I think a lot of people think like, oh, this is kind of like, boring, not exciting stuff. And when you think of social media and creating content, I think a lot of people, especially who are in businesses where it might not be exciting things, they are hesitant to create content. They're hesitant to go out there and use social media because they just don't think there's anything to create content about. When you hear that kind of thought process, how do you approach your content strategy, knowing that some of the stuff might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's important to your audience? So I guess to like succinctly ask you a question here, how do you approach your content strategy knowing that it's talking about insurance?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's very kind. But I don't think insurance is not something that's interesting, right? So first of all, it's a mindset in here, right? And I think that most people, once they actually start to think about their businesses and risk, and their mindset gets shifted, they start to realize how interesting it really can be. It's just not the first thing that pops in your mind as far as topics are concerned. It's like, oh, what do I want to talk about today? Risk and insurance is definitely not the first one that pops up. I'll agree to that. But business is risk, right? And so, when we started to create content, when we started, and when I say create content, I don't just mean videos. I'm talking about our website. We're talking about blogs. I'm talking about conversations that I use at networkers, or if I get the opportunity at an event that I'm speaking at around the topic. As I'm building out all that content, I really just try to think of what our day-to-day businesses have to deal with, and try to speak to how the connection works, right? So it's not necessarily the depth of the product, though understanding the depth of the product is important for the result you're looking for, but that's step like 3, right? I started step 1, like, why does this matter to me, business owner X, right?
Yep.
And under this situation, this business owner I know is dealing with these kinds of issues. So as opposed to trying to explain, very, kind of broad insurance topics, which makes no sense to anybody but insurance nerds, I try to talk about the impact in their businesses, because we found that way we start to capture the trust we need in order to really be able to do the work we do, right? Because for us, it's not so much capturing attention; it's creating trust. We want people to be able to believe that when we're saying, "Hey, these are the things that are valuable for you to think about when you're making these decisions," that they actually take those into effect versus, writing it off, or maybe taking the proposal, flipping it over to the last page just to see what the price is, right? And so building that trust helped us create an idea of like, well, how do we speak to business owners? Well, my dad's been a business owner since he was 21, so he taught me what his questions were, and he's had those same questions. So we just tried to build our entire culture around kind of that topic of speaking to how it matters to their day-to-day versus, hey, this is what an endorsement is, and this is how it affects this very unique situation that may or may not ever happen to you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, and I highly recommend everyone check out Alex's YouTube channel, because like when you go through your YouTube channel, it's very clear that's your approach, right? You are very good at explaining topics, talking about the business implications of them, and I'm, for a number of reasons, on a number of different email newsletters for insurance brokerages I've done business with. And to your point, a lot of them are just like pushing the product, right? They're just talking about the product, getting a quote. Here's the product, get a quote kind of thing. And of course, they try and talk about the risk factor a little bit, but it's much more of I don't say a scare tactic, but it's much more of like, are you safe? Are you exposed? Which is important, obviously. But I think your content does a really good job of teaching people and explaining topics to them that allow them to make the connection, like as you said, from where their business is and what they're doing to like what the actual policies are, what the implications are too.
Right. What, how this is going to affect their business long term, right?
Yeah.
Not just on a specific situation, right? Not a fire, not a flood. I mean, for those kinds of things, we have those conversations, but I mean, those aren't like the things that a business owner thinks about every day. More along the lines of cash flow, conversations around how this means versus long term versus short term. Is this business, what do you expect to do with this business if X happens, right?
Yep.
And so just kind of turn it into a risk conversation, because business owners are risk takers. And I think that our content has always kind of flowed in that direction. One, because we realized not a lot of folks tend to take that perspective. And we wanted to stand out in a very, very loud room, right? Like, our website started in 1997, which is, I know, kind of young at the time. Feels like, well, there weren't that many, local businesses with websites. But from then till today, I mean, the internet's gotten really noisy. There's a lot of people making a lot of content. And so how do we continue to stand out and try and stay true to who we are, who our culture is, and the people we're trying to attract has been, part of that process.
Yes, makes sense. Speaking of website and content and everything you're doing, maybe let's just talk about quickly, like the different areas of where you publish content. So I mentioned your YouTube channel, but what are the different, I'd say like content channels and strategies that you're working? I know it's a lot of things, but I guess high level, what are the different areas that you're creating content in?
Yeah. I kind of break them down into two different things, right? Like direct versus like why I'm talking directly at some group of individuals or business owners, or brochure, right? So our website is a brochure. It's a really, really expansive brochure, but it's a brochure. It's where people land to find information, and then based on the information that they find and trust that's created through the content on there, they take an action, right? Then there is more direct, which would be the video, right? So LinkedIn, YouTube are probably the two strongest on that front. But we have different strategies for our business page than we have for me as an individual. and then you go for the business, Instagram, TikTok, to make sure, and I kind of look at those as brochure also. I'm not really creating things around those particular channels, but more along the lines of trying to make sure that people can find us there. Because as generations change, we've seen it, right? First, was the phone book, right? Then became websites, right? Then it became whether or not you were on Facebook. Instagram it seems to have, at least in my world, right, seems to have become kind of the new Facebook, in the sense of where people
Yeah.
tend to try to find proof of life, right, or validation of information they've received from somewhere. And that may change to TikTok in the future, because that's the channel that a lot of folks are on. So for those two, I tend to use more as that brochure, also taking content already created, mixing it up slightly for the formats, and then throwing it on there. But that's kind of how I break it up, right? So I'm trying to capture people at different points, and for different aspects of who we are. And then so we try to use the same content, just in slightly different ways on all those places.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting, even from my perspective. When you guys launched your website in 1997, I was 7 years old. But not long after that, I'm trying to think.
Wow, man! Thank you, thank you
That
for that
wasn't
real
you, though.
moment
That
right
was your
there.
dad did that. But when I was in 6th grade is when I started getting involved with website stuff. I was that nerdy kid, and thankfully my parents bought a computer for me and gave me way too much access to internet, including allowing me to get a GeoCities website up and that type of thing back then. And it's been crazy to see the evolution from how people buy. And for context too, my family owned a commercial printing company. So you talk about old school style of marketing, it was direct mail pieces. It was literally brochures. You talk about brochures for your website and stuff, but a lot of brochure printing.
Well, I mean, I know the term dates me, along with you telling me you were 6 years old when I first, bought the domain. Okay. 7.
But again, from my perspective, being in digital marketing, there was obviously Yahoo was a prominent way people found information online initially, or Ask Jeeves, that type of thing. Moving to Google, and then Facebook became big, and on all that side of things. Google obviously has been the dominant way of capturing demand and capturing interest for 15, 20 years. But one thing that's really interesting for me is something you just called out, that people are using social platforms more as search nowadays to find information. If they're trying to find out something, a basic question, but something along the lines of how does this kind of policy work, or how do I install this, right? Instead of going to Google, they're going to Instagram, they're going to TikTok, because they want to consume that 90-second video that explains it, versus trying to go past the ads on Google, try and find a link, go through a web page, it's got a bunch of ads on it, try and find it. It's just easier to watch a 90-second video explaining it. So that's a major shift. And the other part of it is AI. We just did a B2B buyer survey, and for the sample that we had, the executives actually said they're more likely to use AI to try and find answers to something than going to Google now. Actually, as far as the overall pie chart, number one was for them to ask their peers, to get recommendations from peers when it comes to making a big decision. But number two was actually going to AI, and then it was Google search, which I thought was really interesting. And I know we've gone back and forth in different discussions related to how do you get visibility in AI, because you guys actually are showing up, right? Because of all the content you're creating, the YouTube content, the podcast content, you're actually showing up there too. But maybe kind of briefly, what's your take as a small business owner who's so heavily invested in content? And I know you guys have a great blog on your website that gets a bunch of Google search traffic too. How are you navigating that change and that shift in how people are searching and how people are finding your business?
Well, one thing I think I try to do is try to remember that just because I do it one way doesn't necessarily mean my customers are going to do it the way I think, right? So I learned that really early on in my career, with the phone book of all things. Too long a story to explain here, but basically I thought nobody uses a phone book except to, as a steps tool to reach higher things or something. And I was proven very, very wrong. And that kind of changed my mindset, where I had to realize I had to start thinking more like my customers. With the shift to AI, I have the same problem, right? Like, okay, now I know my customers are searching the AI, right? And so then my thoughts go around questions that they might be asking AI. Because there's no, I don't have an unlimited budget here, and I've only got the knowledge that God's put into this very limited brain. So I'm always just trying to figure out, kind of similarly to what's always worked for us. It's like, well, what are the questions that they're asking? How are they asking those questions? And how can I speak into that to then get the insurance aspect of whatever that question ends up being. So I think one of the reasons we've been fortunate that during this shift to AI, we have been, we're pretty often used as a source in our local area, pretty much the state of Florida, is because we've always kind of taken that answer the question. That's not my idea. It goes back to a talk I heard a very long time ago, and a speaker named Marcus Sheridan, who wrote a book, They Ask You Answer. And I like adopted that very specifically and try to do that, because that's what people are doing, right? They're not going to AI with, anything different than they used to go to Google. It's just their answer they're getting has, more context possibly, or searches more areas, right? So then we've been fortunate that initially, at least, we've been able to take advantage of the fact that we've always had that perspective. But now we're thinking about it like, hey, our website isn't the only important, thing being searched anymore. And one source isn't enough for any AI to your authority with the AI isn't spoken to just by what you have on your website, right? So now I've had to expand, like, to do outside of what I do for a living type of conversations, and be listed on different websites, and going on podcasts, and being invited to an amazing event in Madison, Wisconsin, to talk about my experiences, and having to get out of my own comfort zone and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to do these things because I do want the AIs that are trying to formulate these answers to see, hey, Deposit Insurance isn't just this one thing in this one place trying to do this one problem. They're everywhere, so it could be a trusted source. And so it may give that option to as a source, or directly send it to it. Not to mention, I think you and I have talked about that AI itself is finding that videos are one of the things that people like to consume when they're looking for the answer to the question. So, having had content on YouTube since 2016, it helps. But now, literally before jumping on with you, I was working with my AI to talk about, developing topics in a way that continue to reinforce kind of what we're talking about here. Because I want to build more and more and more of that content to help feed the engine that captures the trust and attention of the AI, so that it can provide that to the folks who are looking for that. And so it's always kind of about thinking about where the customer is, where they're getting their information from, and trying to be a resource for that channel.
Yeah, and I think, and I just mentioned it, both of us obviously come from family businesses where our dads were doing stuff when we were just children. And it's funny because my dad was in sales. That was kind of his thing. He was a sales guy, and he came up that way. And he definitely doesn't know what we're doing now. As far as, he knows AI exists and what's going on there. But at the same time, he, is not a very tech savvy guy. He's in his late 70s. But he understands the concept of what we're doing, because we're just trying to help our customers learn, right? And that's really, like, back in the 80s and 90s when he was growing that business, his printing company business, they'd put on different sessions and seminars and invite their customers in locally. They'd be involved, as you're saying, and going around and meeting and speaking at different events to help build that trust and authority. And to your point, you just about, like, the shift from Yellow Pages and where your customers are at. It's like, at the end of the day, you're still doing the same thing. You're just teaching people, you're building trust, you're answering their questions. It's just kind of the mode of what you're doing it. I think that's something that I know, and I know when I talk to a lot of people about digital strategy, they get very caught up in the tricks and the tips and the quick wins, that type of thing. Because like, oh, it's digital, I can just do some quick magic things, and all of a sudden it works. But it's like, no, like you kind of have to know what you're talking about, and you kind of have to actually provide value. I think you guys do a great job with that. But one thing that like definitely popped in my mind as you're going through this, well, real quick, how big is your company? How many employees do you guys have?
Well, we're 6 here in the United States.
Okay. So people hear you say that all these different things you're doing, right? Lots of content creation, lots of things happening. And they probably think like, oh, like he must have a marketing team of 20 people that's like going behind the scenes and creating all this stuff and, TikTok and YouTube and blogs and all that. So I guess the big question for you here is, how do you guys create all that content and still run a business at the same time? Because a lot of insurance brokerages are just so heavy on cold calling, cold sales, go out there, slam the door, that type of thing. That's not the approach that you guys take, it seems like, right? You go the content approach. So how
we do the
you,
inbound approach?
Yes,
right. We do the inbound approach.
So how do you think about that?
How do I keep it all straight in my head? Yeah, no. The answer is I don't. It's just sometimes sometimes I'm laying there at night. My wife is watching a TV show we're supposed to be watching together, and my head is not in the right place.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's so the tips and the tricks aren't in getting a video to work. The tips and the tricks is how do I stay consistent so that it can do its work. I have found in the work that I'm doing that consistency trumps bad video, bad audio, bad topic, bad speaker, bad anything that you think you might be. Doing it consistently just overcomes a huge amount of hurdles. And so what I tried to do, that my tips and tricks are always around how to stay consistent, right? And though when I first started doing this, it was all literally me, right? Like I was the filmer, I was the editor, I was the copywriter. Oh my God, I am terrible at writing copy. I was doing all of those things. But in today's world, even though, my team was 6, what they do is insurance all day, every day. But I have freelancers and other individuals who help do the rest of that work. It's still me who comes up with a lot of the topics or maybe manages that the culture and that the idea remains the same. But I no longer do the actual editing or posting or anything of that nature. In fact, I would tell most people who ask, it's like, do it way before you think you can afford it. Yeah. It just from at least my personal perspective, I mean, I know how to do things with editing, when I'm talking to Weston and he and I kind of geeking out over how to do a certain thing. And he just showed me something super awesome in the last Catalyst call about helping create thumbnails, which just blew my mind. But I've learned how to do all of that. That is not what's making me money. And so I really kind of say, hey, if you're a business owner, you don't really need to know how to do all those things unless it interests you. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But you can offset that. You can outsource that work. And then just as long as you are the center. And when I say you, one of the wonderful things I love about the work that we do is that almost no one calls the office asking to speak to me, right? It is always my face. I cringe at the idea of when my grandkids one day will be looking online at their granddad and every video is me talking and da 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 da. They're going to think I'm the most vain person on the planet. But at the end of the day, the content isn't delivered in a way that says, hey, you have to talk to Alex. The content's delivered in a way that this is who we are as a business. This is what our business culture is. This is what our business value is. This is what we're proposing we're going to be able to deliver to you. So as long as you call our phone number, you email us, you chat with us, I mean, however you get in contact with us, you're going to get the same experience. And so all it is I added the component of actually filming content into my weekly work. Yeah. And made it a way that it was, that it allowed me to do it quickly and to deliver it to other people in a way that they can easily parse it out and deliver it on the different platforms.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys do a great job of branding it. Obviously, as I look at you right now, I see your logo at least 3 different spots. So to your effect, like it's not like that's a big hesitation we see with people too. Is like, especially working with business owners, like we don't want to be an influencer. That's what they say. Like, I don't want to be an influencer. It's like that's not the goal, right? The goal is not to be an influencer. It is to reach your audience and build trust and provide value. And like that, and to your point, like that's what you guys do a really good job with. And like obviously it's your face, sometimes your dad's, but it's your face on there. But it is obviously like it's your brand providing that value, which I think is really important. But I want to kind of think like I want to put myself in the shoes. So I'm just thinking of the IGNiTE Summit coming up here, and our audience, is probably half the audience there is not people, maybe more than half people actually, if that matter, are probably not creating content consistently. What you're just saying, right? They're overwhelmed by the idea of it. And you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to force you to re-answer it too. Because they're going to look at you right now. Like the guy's got a mic, he's got fancy lights, he's got a backdrop, and he's doing it consistently. He's been doing it for over 10 years, right? I'm overwhelmed, right? I don't think I can do it. How do you, tell someone who's in that position that is trying to get started with this? Like, what is the first step? How do they actually get started and be successful in creating content and using that as a way to build out an inbound strategy?
Right. I tell people, so at first, number one, I'm not one of those people who will tell you that you get comfortable doing it. In fact, I say quite the opposite. I still get the jitters every time I hit record. Right. Like it happens every time. The purpose of it isn't for me to feel good or not feel good. The purpose of it is to build revenue. Right. Like, so that keeps me hitting record as often as I can. And when I first started doing it, I had to kind of overcome some of the same jitters lots of other people talk about. So what I ended up doing personally was I simply just grabbed my cell phone and I talked to it often. It just helps you become a little bit more comfortable with the idea of talking to other people in this platform. But at the end of the day, I'm not talking to other people. I'm talking to you, right? I'm talking to the persona I've created for my business. And so the gear I started with is not the gear I use today, right? And gear makes it sound like it's super fancy. This is a 9x8 room. I've got 2 lights I bought on sale, on Amazon one day. I've got a few gadgets here and there that are a little bit more on the pricey side, but it's 11 years of worth of like practice and gadget purchasing and this, that, and the other. So it looks fancier than what it was when I first started. But what kept me going wasn't the how fancy my it may look to other people. What kept me going is that even my first videos, which were terrible, were full of was kind of like all wishy-washy. Some of those still get the most views on our YouTube channel, right? Because it wasn't what I look like. It was what I was giving that mattered. And so if you feel like, oh, you have to look a certain way, you have to this or you have to that, I get it, right? But you'll get there. Start with what you have and start doing it. Open window, sunny day. I will recommend, they're very inexpensive, some kind of audio equipment, little mic that you might, connect to your iPhone or your Android device, because the audio does help a ton. And those are very inexpensive today, but like just start doing it. And you're going to find that your audience exists, number one, right? Because you are an influencer, right? I'm constantly fighting with my social media guy. His name is Juan. We're always, because I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer. Always saying the words, I don't want to be an influencer. But the truth is, I'm not a social media influencer, but I'm an influencer to my customers. I'm an influencer to the audience that I'm trying to build, in the sense of, if I'm going to, whether I'm doing it online or I'm doing it at a chamber event, I want to be known for what I do. I want to be known that I do the thing I do well. And I want other people to be able to trust the words I'm saying. That is the definition of an influencer. And we're all influencers in one way, shape, or form. We just may not all do it digitally. And so if you're already doing something, and I know you already do, you likely already have a pitch, your elevator pitch, you already have a way of people are recognizing you in the spaces that you go into. Use those and start talking about them. And you're going to see that it very naturally, the people who you're trying to attract will be attracted to it.
Yeah, no, I love that, and you know, some of our best clients are people that you get them in a room with their customers or people in their industry, and they are super passionate about it. They will talk about it. They will teach people about things. They will, you know, talk about what they're seeing, the trends, this and that. And we're like, that is great content. You should talk about that and publish online. We're like, oh no, 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 no. It's like, but to your point, like you're already doing it. Like you are already an expert at what you're doing. You have this great content. You're helping customers. Like just take it online, scale it, right? Like press the publish button, and instead of talking to 10 people in a room, you're talking to 1,000 people or 10,000 people, right? I think it's a really
and again, it doesn't necessarily have to be you, right? Like if you put the phone on the chair, capture yourself doing the talk, right, that you did at you know, a BNI or a local chamber or whatever, and then give it to someone who can do the actual parsing out. And editing is a beautiful thing. Like I can't express to people how much cooler I sound and look than it actually was when I was taping it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, allowing other people that opportunity, I think that, you know, you can do a lot with what you're already doing.
Yeah, no, relevant to that, you know, Michael Seeley's commented on YouTube. Creating content gets easier and easier. It also helps your public speaking. So exactly what you're saying. Well, maybe the, you know, correlated to what you're saying, Alex. Like, and I've noticed that too. That as I create more content, I'm aware of my mannerisms that might not be that great. And in the world of roll-off consulting, Emma Roloff gets up on the stage and talks to 5,000 people. I will just create content with a bunch of ums in it, and then Weston will edit it out, and it'll look great at the end of it. But it actually is it is great for recognizing those mannerisms, and maybe Michael's getting at this too. That the other side of it, especially for people who are customer facing, as you create more content, I found it really, really helps you hone in your messaging, and not just like your elevator pitch for your business, but you recognize as you create more content, what things you're saying are important to your audience, what things provide value to them, how to frame things. And, you know, I've worked with a number of different sales teams over the years. And I think for them just to create content for the sake of becoming better sales reps is really important too, right? Even if they don't stay consistent with it and do it for 10 years and create this giant inbound strategy, just creating content on a somewhat regular basis as a sales rep is going to make you so much more effective when you're actually on discovery calls or actually presenting proposals, because you are going to be someone that knows how to like deliver content to an audience. So I think that's a really good point that Michael brought up there. I think kind of aligns with what you're saying too, Alex.
Yeah, no, I agree. The more reps, everything is about practice, right? So the more reps you put in, the more likely you are to get better at the thing. And creating content allows you to A/B test all of those reps on at scale, right? So like if you're using a certain set of words that you think are going to reach the audience, but it like bombs, right? Well, your next piece of content could try a different set of words, and all of a sudden, two of those words kind of felt like they resonated and felt natural to you. So you're like, oh, well, I'm going to adopt those, but try them with three other words and see what ends up happening, right? And so you end up creating a language that is much more effective at getting the point across in a shorter period of time. And simply, like, you know, Michael was saying, it gives you that opportunity to put in those reps that naturally teaches you how to to be more authentic in your delivery. Mostly because you found the words, you found the way to speak, your cadence, you found those things that you start to realize what it is about you that folks really react to, and so you could lean into those good things and maybe remove some of the things that are holding you back.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, self-discovery wise, man, what I think people care about and what I think people respond to is not what they respond to.
No, we do it so often. Like the content you think is going to be awesome and get tons of engagement and leads, so all the stuff that bombs, and it's like the stuff that, you know, a random Friday morning, you crank out, and all of a sudden, like, that's what takes off. Which just goes to show, like, back to your earlier point, it's consistency, right? Like, you don't know what's going to be most effective. So that's why you're always testing and staying consistent, because that's how you get the at bats, really, what it comes down to.
And we hear the word testing and we're thinking like some kind of scientific process. No. You just made a video, you put it out there. You see what people commented on, if they commented on it,
Yep.
And then remember, it's funny, I read this somewhere, probably on TikTok. But I kind of actually like it. He's like, man, you got 300 views on a video. Wow, not a great thing. Big whoop. Okay. Do you know how hard it is to get 300 people in a room to listen to the thing you're about to say, even for 10 seconds?
Oh, yeah.
That's not easy to do. So, even though the view count may not be what you wanted it to be at or expected at, it's a much larger audience than you're talking to if you weren't doing it.
Yeah.
So it gives you that, as a side bet, it gives you that ability to kind of become better and more honed at the work you're trying to, at the message you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I know we have a couple lurkers here. Michael's dropping things. Weston's just clapping his hands at some point. You said something, Alex. He clapped his hands about it, but I missed out what it was. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Obviously, if you're here live, we can quickly answer them for you. If it's after the fact, if you're watching a recording of this, still feel free to drop them in. Alex or I will pop in and chat with you too. If you have questions,
and if you forget about it now, then we're going to be in Madison having this conversation in person.
Yes.
That you can come and ask the question there. I'd love to see you all there.
Yes, we have a very exciting panel that Alex will be on of talented business owners. And I think what I'm excited about too for your panel is that the people on the panel have very different approaches to content creation and different styles and that type of thing, which I think will just lend well to talking about, like, everyone kind of has their own approach to what they do. And I think you have a very unique side of things with how educational your content is and focused on what you do. So I think it'll be good to have the different voices in there.
Well, that's one of the things I'm most excited about is to be purely transparent. I'm pretty sure, and I've racked my brain trying to figure this out, but this is going to be the first non-insurance conference I've ever traveled for. Like, I've been to some stuff here, in the local area, that kind of a thing, but like that I'm going out of my way, that it's not specifically insurance focused. This is the first time ever. And I'm excited to hear other people's perspectives around the topic so that I can learn more and hopefully speak into the work that I'm doing and make me more effective at the work I'm trying to do. So I'm super pumped about the other people in the room.
Awesome. Yeah. And then that's something that our goal with IGNiTE. I think about 30% of the attendance is insurance related and the rest is something else. But I was talking to Emma about this the other day, like, instead of being like vertically niched, we're kind of more horizontally niched in what we do in the business. Right. And our goal is really just to help people be digital leaders, help them show up online, create content, be effective, be that favorite teacher. And that can apply across any industry. You're a great example of it, obviously, from the insurance brokerage side of things, but what you're saying can apply to really any business. Like all the tips you gave today, all the things that you're talking about and strategies, like that's all stuff that can apply to any business. So I think that's kind of the fun part, is just seeing how it applies to different businesses too. I do have one last question for you, and you kind of just answered it, but beyond being the non-insurance, a non-insurance conference, what are you most excited about for IGNiTE and being in Madison for?
Yeah, it's for getting, well, number one, I'm fortunate enough to be a part of the Catalyst community. So I do know some of the folks that are going to be going there, and they're amazing. Emma and you, James, create an incredible community, even outside the Catalyst community, of individuals who are all kind of on similar paths. So I'm excited to meet the people who are coming together to be able to help each other, get to the goals that we're all trying to reach. I mean, that's the point of events like this, right? It's not just to sit there and kind of take in information and be a consumer, but rather be in a room full of people who are going to give and are going to take, and then together we're going to create all kinds of new things, all kinds of new ideas for content, all kinds of new systems that we might be able to implement in our day-to-day or our businesses that will allow us to do all of these different things that we need to do. Because being a business owner, I deal with small business all day long, and so I have the good fortune, I think, to see how different businesses run. And there are some things that are very, across the board. I'd say about 85% of running a business is the same in any business. That 15% though speaks, is quite a big lift, right? For those individual niches or types or this or that or the other. But finding people who want to help make that 85% better, faster, cleaner, more effective, and being in a room with a group of people who all want to help each other. I haven't had coffee. I'm like jittery, just excited about it. So
nice. And cheese curds too.
Cheese curds, yes, yes. There's definitely going to be cheese curds involved. There may be a cheese hat.
Have you ever had deep fried cheese curds before?
You know me well enough to know the answer to that question.
We're gonna force it.
I'm Cuban. We deep fry everything.
Yeah.
We're the country who saw a rotten plantain and said, I bet you that tastes good fried.
Yeah, and it does actually.
It does actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We're looking forward to having you here in Madison and sharing the knowledge on the stage. And again, any questions people have, drop them down in the comments below. We can answer them later. But Alex, appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Looking forward to seeing you in real life in 2 weeks.